Isn't it curious that when you hear approximately half of all new businesses started are owned by women, that only 2% of startups that receive venture capital funding are female owned, and only 2% of businesses making over $1 million a year are female owned? Those stats really speak to something. There is far more than just a gender divide. There's something else going on. And today we're going to be talking about what this is. What is this difference? Well, we're going to call it presence. There is a different presence happening for these female owners versus their male counterparts. And what is it that we're missing? Well, some people will call it the masculine swagger. And today we're going to explore what that is, what it means, and how you can actually tap into your own source of masculine swagger and actually put it on without it feeling inauthentic to you, without it feeling like you're becoming a male, because you don't need to do that. And finally, be that assertive leader, that assertive business owner that helps your business to make real momentum and growth. So stay tuned because it's coming right up. Hello, I'm Jessica Osborne, the host of She's a Business podcast. I'm a marketing strategist with over 25 years experience with businesses large, small, global, startups, multinational organizations. I'm also a business coach helping other females to take their hard-earned expertise, turn it into a category of one, the positioning that really allows them to shine in the market, have an offer that's profitable, that's fulfilling and flexible, and ultimately design the business that gives them the life balance where you don't have to compromise on your important, precious family time. She's a Business podcast is your unique blend of strategy, mindset, spirituality, energetics, literally everything that you need to be successful as the leader of your own business. Made by women for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. So here with me today to talk about how you can unlock your own version of the masculine swagger as a female and be a far more effective and assertive leader of your business is Dr. Liz Dubois Erskine. She is an executive coach, a conflict analyst, and a marketing strategist who helps high-achieving leaders untangle the internal patterns that hold them back from the next level of leadership. Liz has a PhD in conflict analysis and resolution and a career that spans marketing roles with Disney and iHeartRadio. So she brings a mix of academic depth and business strategy and really a refreshingly no-nonsense approach to personal growth and leadership, as well as a fantastic personality too. We have so much fun in this discussion. And as you'll see, she has some really great, unique takes on what it is that is different for women versus men in these leadership roles. Her work focuses on ambitious professionals who have the credentials, the drive, and the wins, but still struggle with people pleasing, with burnout, and with that fear of judgment. So Dr. Liz helps them rebuild their self-trust, lead with real authority, and create those sort of businesses and careers that actually feel as successful as they look. So she helps her clients move away from the hustle culture and the constant proving yourself, which we all know so well as women, towards a deeper self-trust and internal stability, an absolute energetic shift, and the adoption of real presence in who it is that you're showing up as every day. And of course, we want that to be authentically you. So without further ado, let me press play on this interview and introduce you to Dr. Liz Dubois Erskine. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. So I'm here in the studio, the virtual studio, with Dr. Liz Dubois Erskine. Liz, if I can call you Liz for short, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
No, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. you're an executive coach and obviously a PhD. You've got so much understanding of people and how we relate to each other and how we also show up in the workplace, which is what we're talking about today. Really, how you're embracing that masculine swagger, how you can lead your company more unapologetically. Obviously not as a man, but as a woman with that same level of kind of confidence. Have I framed that in the way that you would say it? Like, what do you think this is all about?
Yeah, 100%. No, you nailed it. You nailed it. So thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to be in my office, which is not always warm, but it is today. And I'm just so grateful to be back out here after a cold winter. So yeah, I would frame it exactly that way, right? We talk a lot in leadership circles about women embodying your higher self and being, stepping into their full authority and being authentic. But we rarely have a conversation that says, well, how would a man do this? Why are men getting away with this? and how do I do it differently? Right. And this can be really, really, really simple. Something as simple as I'll be writing a text message or an email and I'm like, I think I just added 3 sentences explaining why I just made the declarative statement that I did, right? I'll be like, oh, I want peanut butter for lunch. And then I'll be like, because here's all the reasons why, as if I had to back up my claim, right? Like it's like 5th grade math and I have to show my work still. And I see that a lot with women in their communication where they go, well, here's what I want. And let me make sure that you understand that it's a good enough reason. And please say yes. And I'm sorry if it's inconvenient for you that I asked.
Yes.
Right. And I see this pattern of communication a lot with women trying to justify their requests and then apologize for the request on the other side. Right. And so when I talk about stepping into your masculine swagger, it's not as kind of like divine masculine, divine feminine stuff. I don't know really anything about that. What I'm talking about very practically is how do women behave in a workplace setting or in a leadership role that is different than the way that men lead? And are there things that we have adopted as women that aren't actually a genuine, authentic style of leadership, but rather us performing apologies because we're afraid of being seen as too strong, and that might be off-putting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sitting here nodding along. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because it's like this need to justify, this constant need to prove and to be credible. And so, the explaining, the apologizing, it's almost just automatic. Like we're doing it without even realizing. And you made me think, actually, and this is interesting, maybe just a slight side tangent. I think last week I recorded this reel because I was like, why do women feel like we need to look like a man in order to be taken seriously? Like men can sit there, they're like this top CEOs, they're super mega multi-million dollar, entrepreneurs. They can show up in just a t-shirt, say whatever they want to say, and people are like, bang, dude, you've got this, like you're amazing, so much credibility. No one even questions it. Whereas as soon as a woman thinks I'm going to turn on a camera or sit on a stage, I've got to put the jacket on. I've got to, and we just we morph into this thing of like what we perceive to be the authority. I'm not going to be taken seriously unless I've got the suit jacket on. I was just like, why? Why are we doing that? Why can't we have the authority in a t-shirt the same as the guys do? Like it is just mental, but we're doing this today, even like so much. So.
But it's not automatic. You said it's just automatic. It's not. It's learned, right? If you look at a little girl, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years old, she is vibrant. She is out there. She is in your face. She is killing it, right? And then puberty happened and boobs happen and boys happen. And all of a sudden we start to fit into these boxes that tell us there's a particular way that we're supposed to be. And that gets reinforced, right? This isn't like we all go crazy the second we get our periods. This is socialized norms that tell us who we're allowed to be. And girl, golly, do I have a real world example right now. So I'm part of an international networking group. I'm not going to name the group, but it's a prestigious international networking group. It's been around for over 100 years. And I'm part of it. And every Wednesday I go and I get to have a really nice experience learning from other business owners and having a nice meal, and it's great and it's lovely. Hold the phone. So a couple of weeks ago, I thought the collective group gets an email saying, we meet at the country club. They have a dress code, no wearing jeans. And I was like, well, okay, whatever. So I host a little thing called Ladies Who Lunch once a month. And it's just like, if you own a business, come buy yourself lunch at this restaurant. A bunch of other ladies will be there, right? It's very informal. So at Ladies at Lunch, I'm sitting across from two other women that are also in this networking group. And all they could talk about was this email that went out, because apparently, spoiler, drum roll, it only went to the women. What? Even though some of the men wear jeans. Right? Today, I was there today having my fancy ass lunch at the country club, and there is a man wearing jeans. And I was just like, what? And so I was wearing a cute little skirt. Yeah. I was wearing this blouse. I looked awesome. And I had on heels because, like, whatever, I can rock heels still. And so I'm like, I see the guy in the jeans. I am absolutely fucking pissed. And I knew all these other women were too. I knew I was not alone in these feelings. Right. And so I'm like clomping across the parking lot, and I see two of these, like, you know, these are like older, whiter, maler people than me. Right. And that's not to say, I'm married to an older dude. I love him very much. Right. It's to say that's like the vibe is a smoke filled back room. Right. And so I'm clomping and I look at these guys, and across the parking lot, all these like douchebags are playing golf and whatnot. And I was like, we don't wear jeans, but I expect both of you in heels next week. And I just like walked off to my mom SUV. I was just like,
oh
so
my gosh. Angry. I just can't believe that someone would have the audacity to send out a dress code just to women going, jeans are not acceptable. And then there are men in there wearing
But it's not in the dress code.
It wasn't the dress code.
There is a formal dress code. No, there is a formal dress code. It doesn't say you can't wear jeans. I mean, it's just like this gentleman took it upon himself to like impose what I guess his interpretation of how women should look when they're at a business lunch.
Wow.
And like, good for him. Right. But here's the thing that like gets me. I'm like, good for him. We're coming for you, boys. But we're not. Like in the United States, 48% of businesses are owned by women. Only 4% of businesses that break $1 million are owned by women. Right. So there's this huge gap. And as much as I want to be like, we're killing it, ladies, I'm like, there's so much external forces still at play that make it really difficult for women to not just succeed, but to thrive and create structures where other women can thrive too. And that's not a condemnation of men. This man certainly needs to be condemned, but that's not a condemnation of like the entire gender. It's just to say, like, we live, at least here in the United States, we live in a nation still where the disproportionate amount of businesses that break $1 million are owned by men. And I think that invites a lot of, hopefully, it doesn't invite anger on my part, but it does invite a lot of curiosity of kind of like, what's going on here?
Absolutely. And, you know, I think people aren't necessarily doing it intentionally, but like you say, this gets learned and it's kind of really embedded. And what I've even seen is women in a lot of corporations and companies, they are also part of the problem at times. Like they're not supporting other women. They're chopping them down. I did a post a little while ago because I just get really fired up about it. And this has almost nothing to do with my business, but it is kind of the reason why I started in the first place, is that you've got talented women, A players, they are doing so well. Then they go and have a baby. Oh my goodness. And it's like, they didn't lose their brain. They didn't lose their smarts. They actually became a whole new level of amazing because of the rewiring that goes on. But in terms of the company's perspective, they're not even given a chance to show whether they come back and are just as awesome as before. They're already put in the box. out to the side, like, oh, you were the A player, but now you're going to be a mum, so therefore you'll be a problem. And that happens the moment you say the words, I'm pregnant. It literally is like the door shuts. You haven't even, 5 minutes ago, you didn't know, treating someone like a complete A player. Literally, you say the words. And my experience was, oh, there'll be a job for you somewhere when you get back. I was the head of marketing communications. I was like, what are you talking about? There's a job for me somewhere. I was like, I'm coming back to my job. Like, that is the law that you are obliged to follow, by the way. But I haven't worked my butt off for it was like 15 years or whatever it was before that to get here, to then just be told, oh, well, you won't actually want your job. I was like, you don't tell me what I want or not want, or what I can handle or can't handle. And I was just like, right from that moment. And I thought I could change their mind. I thought, and I think a lot of women do. We think, oh, we can change their mind. I'm pretty stubborn and that sort of person where I was like, I'll show you. I'll come back and I'll be even more awesome, which I did. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter that I did a full-time job and part-time hours and got paid part-time hours. It didn't matter that results improved. I was already in the box. And it just literally, that change happened as soon as those words were said. A lot of women are not as bold and brash as I was, and I don't even consider myself that bold. I was still so entrenched in this environment, right, where I felt I had to prove myself all the time. But a lot of them just accept it, and they get pushed out. And half of the time, my long-winded story started with, it's women. So the leader, the CEO generally is still a man, but then it's the head of HR. They are literally activating these, let's push these people out. Let's reorganize the organization, make their roles not exist anymore, give them a demotion, whatever happens. I have heard people every time I share a story, they come to me and they say, oh, this is what happened to me. And some of them are shocking. I don't even know how people are getting away with it, how these companies get away with what they're doing, because it's so illegal. But it's not just the men, it's also some women in these roles. So it's like there's an issue there, and women aren't being seen or learning how to be assertive, how to show who they really are. And I think that it affects them even more once that happens.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Well, it's fine, yucky. Because it was, I think, just the push that I needed to be like, this is not the world that I want to be in, right? Yeah. But bringing it back, it was like, you're suddenly in this world it's really not the place to be, and it didn't really matter how awesome you are. But I look back and think, well, there's probably times I could have been more assertive. I could have been more this and more that. Yeah. Would it have changed anything? I don't know. But I think now, leading my own company, there's been all of that stuff that you've got to shed and move away from in order to lead a company and be an effective leader. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you, what are the things, the ways that women shy away from that presence that men seem to have, that kind of just lets it fall naturally to them, where they get the leadership roles, they get the promotion, they run the company, their companies become the more successful ones. What is it that women aren't doing that we should be doing?
I think that's such an interesting question. First off, I want to say I did not have that experience. I was welcome back to work with open arms, and then very quickly left for a different organization that had more prestige and more acclaim as the executive director. And so it was, I want to make sure I'm not presenting an argument of this is a monolithic issue, right? Yeah. Everyone's experiences are slightly different. But what I think you're talking about, especially as you're talking about women in HR roles and whatnot, this isn't just coming from a stodgy, smoke-filled back room, right? What you're talking about is the difference between the institution and the individual, right? Mm-hmm. It is so difficult to change institutions. And I don't just mean an individual company. I mean the norms and structures that tell us that real jobs mean you go to work at these hours and you wear these types of
Yes.
clothes and you use, I hope this email finds you well to,
Yep.
open your email, the opening volley, whatever, right? Like we have this idea of work and like what it means to do work, but it's actually just performative, right? We're performing what it means to be professional. And to break out of that, I think it's really important to push back and say, actually, who I am in this space is X. And the value of being X is this outcome. I think where women end up feeling like they have to prove their worth and get into this whole kind of self-worth, like toilet down the toilet bowl is like, I'm not worthy. I don't have self-worth unless I'm achieving. And most companies, not all, but most companies are not looking for you to be worthy. They're looking for you to be effective. And so when you walk into work with a bag of insecurities and say, I need my boss to interact with me in a way so that I know that I'm enough, that's a story that I hear from women. It's not a story that I hear from my male clients, right? So how do you adopt some of this executive swagger, this masculine swagger? It starts with understanding your job is not there to be your therapist, right? And if you own your own company, like a work-life balance, mental health is really intrinsic to how I run my company. And in general, try to work no more than 30 hours a week and really protect my time and my energy. It doesn't always happen. But I'm in no part of that am I performing work. I'm just being myself. And that looked different today at lunch. I was wearing a skirt situation, right? And I had a meeting right afterwards with one of the women that were like, how do we deal with this institutional issues, right? I went home and put on jeans and went to her office just because I knew she would get a laugh out of it, right? And
funny.
So I think a lot of this comes down to checking yourself and saying, am I being real right now? Because the real me, Dr. Elizabeth Iggy Dubois Erskine, does not write, I hope this email finds you well, right? She just writes, can you please do this at 2:00? Yeah. Right. And then I find myself wanting to sprinkle these kind of like niceties. And when I look at communication from my male clients and from male colleagues and from my husband, they don't do that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're not there to like make sure that my feelings are okay when they ask me for something, right? And so you ask like, what can women do? I think it really starts with communication. Maybe not. I think it starts with self-awareness. Where are you bringing your insecurities into work and trying to have somebody else reflect back to you that you're good enough? That's not what your job is for. And then 2, communication. Where are you performing and apologizing as opposed to just saying your piece and getting done?
Yes.
Right. And by this, I don't mean like run past someone's office and be like, I need that report, motherfucker. Right. Like being direct. There's nothing wrong with simply saying, hi, how are you? Can you please send this over to me at 3:00? Right. And if you've sent an email back and forth all day, you don't need to preface it with, thank you again. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful. You can just be like, thanks.
Yeah,
here's the thing, right? It's okay to be direct.
I think you're so right. And, reflecting back on the many years that I spent in large organizations and as a leader with, women that I managed as well as men, the thing that I noticed the most is women will wait to be validated or have that acknowledgement and the approval. And they seek it like that, but they don't ask for it. They wait to be told. Like, so they're just sort of sitting there, they're doing their best work, really hoping someone notices. And the thing is, people are busy. Like, they're all doing their own thing. They've got all this stuff on. They do notice who's a good performer or not, but they really aren't noticing to the level that I think a lot of women are expecting to be noticed. And so they will put in, they do so much, they literally do so much more just, I think, for that validation, And I'm always like, it is
Yep.
not worth it. You're not being recognized for the amount of effort that you're putting in. Great, do it, but do the stuff that counts, that matters. Like, don't hold yourself to all of these high ideals trying to be perfect, because it's literally it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just burning yourself out.
Right.
And it's, I think it becomes that spiral, like, where they're then exhausted. They're like, oh, no one's even noticing, and then they think it's all about them and their self-worth, and it's actually just like, no,
Yeah.
it's because the people are looking at what is shifting the needle. And if you're working on something that's shifting the needle, great,
Mm-hmm.
the needle's moving, bang, it's part of it. But it's like that, it's just part of it. And it's like, get on with it. You know, it's not this specialness that I think sometimes people are too attached to, wanting to feel like there's more to it, or it's more personal and about them. Whereas I think, and from a business sense, one of the biggest learnings is, you know, you're there for the business, and while you're a person and a human, the business kind of sees you as a necessary input, right, while you're performing that role. And
Mm.
it's so interesting when anything big happens, like one of those big shakeups where they restructure. I was in London working for the Royal Bank of Scotland during the GFC, and it got nationalised. And so there were huge, like, organisational shake-up, like restructured, roles being made redundant everywhere. And it was like that moment of going, you're just a number. Like, at the end of the day, you are a cog in the
Yeah.
bigger machine, and you're a number. And if you're a good cog that's turning the wheel, then great, you'll be kept along, and otherwise you might be discarded. But it's nothing to do with you as a person. It's literally just a numbers game, and you are a number and part of a machine. And they really see it like that. It was just such a huge insight. I think a real benefit coming through that. I was luckily one of the cogs that wasn't essential, but it was, it was that moment. I was trying to say to people I was mentoring, like, hey, don't take this personally. They literally, it is,
Yeah.
it's very mathematical at this point. And, it's not about how much they love you, because they might like you as a human, but it's about the machine.
Yeah.
I think women find that harder to conceptualize more than guys in the workplace.
Yeah. I think some of that comes down to this kind of like, starting at a young age, we're taught to be nice, right? The way to be loved is to be available to other people, right? And to behave in ways that other people will approve of. And there's like countless studies that we don't really need to delve into now, right? But we're socialized to
Yeah.
seek this approval. And then as leaders, we take this into the workforce and we go, oh, please approve of me. And really what, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, you're just downgrading feelings, and don't you understand that feelings are important? 100%. What I'm saying is, when you put your search for emotional validation and pin it on your workplace or pin it on your boss, which is very specifically how this manifests, right? What you're doing is you're taking all of those feelings that really need to be brought to a therapist or a coach or a best friend or your mom, whatever. And you're saying, I need all of these feelings to be addressed through my work. I know I feel anxious and insecure. And if I just do well at work, all of those feelings are going to get resolved because I will have the validation. And we're not like cognitively thinking this up here, right? This is not like the little hamster is turning and being like, oh, that's the next step. Right. It's like, it's so ingrained in us, right? Get good grades, sit down, raise your hand. And we just get put on this continuum that tells us the way to be appreciated and the way to achieve is to behave in a way that other people find palatable. And if you're going to step out of the box, right, and you're going to say, well, there's this 44% gap between businesses in the US owned by women and 4% that are owned, and break $1 million by women. There's this gap. You have to step outside of that. There's no way to beat the system by working within the system. You have to become something different. And that something different is the real you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So I want to ask you about this now, and definitely kind of framing it in the sense of the female business owner, because I think most of us listening here would be now, we may have all had our early careers and life where we were in businesses and hopefully related to a lot of those pieces that we've already discussed. But now that we're running our own business, what is it that women need to think about, do? Like, how can we activate? You mentioned like the masculine swagger, and it's like, I hear that and I think, okay, I don't want to become a man, and because there was so much that was just wrong with that. And side tangent, I just think about all the ways that we were, like you say, we learned how to be in business. And I even had a male boss that would sit down and rewrite some of my emails that I was sending because he thought I was too direct and I had to soften. I'm like now thinking, how many years of damage did that do? Because I got moderated by my boss. No, you're far too direct. Obviously, I was going to not, I needed to stroke the ego of these men and moderate what I was saying. And I was like, oh, okay. Felt weird at the time, but you learn, you adopt, right? And you learn all of these things. So then I don't want to become the man. I'm a woman, and there's a lot that's great with it, but we all have sort of aspects of us. And, you mentioned before, not going to go into the energetic discussion because I think that's a whole episode totally separate, but we have everyone within us.
Yeah, with not me, I'd be so lost. I'm like, exactly. With not me.
No, and it's like we all have within us the feminine sort of energetic traits, that's more kind of intuitive and that, more in tune with emotions and that type of thing, which I think lends us to seeking that kind of response from people, right? And then I think we also all have within us the masculine traits that we sort of label as masculine, which is that being that far more direct. So what do we do as women? Like, how can we tap into that and have it still feel like we're still being ourselves, we're still being authentically us, and not doesn't feel false or like, oh, I've got to go and put on a mask and be someone who I'm not, because I think that's not what I see when I see these women who are, are some of the few who are really in that place where they're out there, they're clear leaders, their businesses are doing amazing. It feels like they are completely within their power. They are authentically themselves. They're not a woman standing up there trying to be a man or dressed like a man or acting like one. I think, no, they're actually not at all. They have their own thing going on. But what is that? How do we tap into it?
Yeah, I think another word for masculine swagger, much as I love that term, if you're struggling with that and you're like, I don't want to be a man, me neither. Right. Like that's okay. The way that I like to think about this is being unapologetic. Right. I'm unapologetic in how I run my company. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, that have things to say about what I could do differently or better or what I'm doing wrong. And I'm very much not interested because I don't give a shit. Right. Like, I really, really like how my company runs. And if I am struggling with someone, with something, I seek counsel, right? I seek guidance of coaches. My husband is a huge sounding board for me. There's ways for me to get feedback that aren't listening to people who have critiques of me that are perhaps actually just criticisms, right? I'm totally unavailable for that. I simply do not have interest or time. But the way that I like to do this is I find prototypes. And by that, I mean, I find women, historical women, fictional women, all sorts of, I find women where I'm just like, that lady makes me feel something in my womb space, if you will, right? That like guttural knowing, right? Like for me, Mary of the Bible, Jesus's mom, like she's a big one for me, right? God, like I'm not religious, but I like to use the Bible because there's lessons in there, right? But God came to her and was like, hey, how about you do this huge thing? And, she had trepidation, but she was like, yeah, sign me up, boo. Like, let's go, right? And then in an age when she could have been stoned to death, she was like, I'm pregnant and we're not married, right? Like, this is how we're doing this. And I think about, her giving birth in a barn without any, epidural, without a midwife or a doctor, right? She's like amongst like pigs and cows and stuff. And she was just like, let's go, man. I guess this is what we're doing. Right. And that Joan of Arc swagger where it's just like speaking up and standing up and, like, damn the consequences. This is the truth. Right now, my favorite, is Agatha from Lady Danbury from Bridgerton. If any of you are watching Netflix Bridgerton, very spicy. Love it a lot. Not enough sex this season, just my opinion. But she's just this like, man, like, she is a lioness, and she's not a man in any way, shape, or form. She is Lady Danbury. Thank you. But like, when I'm stuck with something, I'm like, what would Agatha do? Like, she's my like current like masculine swagger muse. So if you're struggling with this, like, go find some women that speak to you and you're like, that is the swagger that I want.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the name. Did you watch the Viking series on Netflix? It was like a little while ago.
No.
There's a woman on there that is exactly like the kind of one that you'd be like, yes, what would she do? Like, she was like, she wasn't anybody, but became the queen through things, ended up, she was so independent, she was so strong, back in the day where women really weren't at all, but she was holding her own. And oh gosh, I'm trying to remember her name. It starts with A, but I'll have to pull it out and send it to you. But I've got a picture of her, and that's where I'm like, when I have those moments of like, right, I need the fire within my belly. Like, let's tap into that energy that she has, because she did it despite, not because of, not, it's like, yes, this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it despite of all of these other things, and despite the fact I shouldn't, and, all of the societal rules and expectations and everything, which it was completely different. And she went against all of it. So, I have to, sorry, I can't think of her name. It's like one of those moments like, damn it, I should know what it is. I'll have to pull it out. But yes, okay, so you can tap into that. And, what does it look like in a, you've kind of mentioned before, there's that whole energy when you walk into, say like a boardroom or something like that. Maybe we're not doing that so much in our own business if we're running the business, but there's a reason why women-led companies aren't getting like venture capital. They're not, maybe they're not even pitching for it in the first place.
There you go. We're not raised to learn how to pitch, right? I was speaking with someone today who I pitched, and we were talking about how challenging it's been for a particular aspect of their organization to do sales. And it largely in part because nobody teaches you how to do this, right? Like, unless you have spent time in a sales organization, which I've had the privilege of doing, unless you've had that training in that time, there's no shot at overcoming all the socialization that tells you, well, don't ask for anything. Oh, I just feel so bad asking people for things. I just feel so bad asking, right? Like, if you want to have a company that, maybe you don't want to go after VC, whatever your dream is, if you want to have a company that excels and moves past that dream and grows and grows and grows in whatever way that means for you, that feels meaningful, you have got to learn how to ask for shit, because it's not going to come from magical unicorn fairy dust. It's going to come from you becoming comfortable saying, hey, this is the support I need, or hey, I'd like you to buy my product.
And even like, hey, this is my vision, and being able to talk about it without being embarrassed, without kind of putting in some soft words around it, and like, really trying to convince them of it. Imagine the difference if you're able to stand up there and say, hey, I've got this idea. This is what I'm going to do, and I want you to invest. That's all they're doing. I was luckily had an experience where I was where I started as head of marketing for they were a startup. They did the IPO, and I helped with all of the pitch decks for the CEO to talk to potential investors. And that's literally all they're doing. They're standing up there saying, here's the data, here's our vision, this is what we're building. Are you in or are you in? Kind of, and with all of that confidence. And they jumped on board like that. It was so successful. We'd get completely sold out every time we'd go back to the share market. And that's really all you're doing, right? With sales, with whatever it is. But it's, for some reason, guys seem to see the big vision and be more than happy to tell people and just be so behind it. Whereas women, it's like I'm saying we because I still feel this way. I'm like, the idea of doing that, I'm like, I want to be feeling like people are on board. I want to be feeling they're like, they're getting it, they're believing in it too, which then kind of gives me that confidence. Like, why can't I just have the confidence and get up and say it? And there's very few, I think there are much fewer women who have that ability to do.
Yeah, because men's self-worth and identity isn't on the line. That's why you said, why can't I have this? Because your self-worth and identity is wrapped up in getting the yes. For men, they get a no. It's a bummer, right? Their financial future might rely on getting a yes, whatever. The stakes can be really, really high, but at the end of the day, they don't go, I have failed as a human and I am unworthy. Whereas women, we get the slightest hint of a no and we collapse because that external validation stands in the place of having a real freaking personality, right? Of having actual genuine self-worth. We walk around in the world, right? This kind of achievement as a love language, right? Like, am I enough yet? Do you love me yet? Am I enough? Did I do enough? Right. And so for women, the stakes for asking is so much higher than for men, because for us, it's an identity conflict.
Oh my goodness.
Right. If someone says no, it means something about me versus it means something about them. They said no because XYZ reason versus they said no because of me.
Yeah. And there's something else that I feel is in that as well, where say we're thinking, okay, right, I really believe in this, I'm going to be assertive. There's almost like we perceive a discomfort in others when we are being unapologetic, when we are showing up with that level of, confidence and just not caring what people think, almost like we're not meant to be like that. And I think that women are perceiving the discomfort, we're projecting it. We're probably perceiving it before it happens, but because it probably has happened before, because you've been told at some point in time, like I was told, moderate your emails. You're too direct, whatever that is.
Wow.
So
don't wear jeans.
Well, actually, that was so I was like, there's so many stories. That was, banking industry in London. So it's very oldie worldy and very, it's very male dominated, as you can imagine, corporate banking even more so. And it was like, you're not taken seriously unless you're wearing a suit. And that would mean definitely, jackets and probably pants. You've got to be some sort of woman to show up in any kind of other clothing that you might feel like, well, this is what I want to wear and I'm still professional. But to be able to pull that off and not to be put in a box by the general consensus of their very institutionalized, ingrained culture, wow, you would have had to be someone with a lot of, personal power. That was,
ovaries.
Yes,
ovaries.
Very strong. So talk about the discomfort of others.
That's a real thing. You said, we're maybe projecting it yes. And right. People don't know how to, let me say that differently. Many people, especially once you get into the upper echelons of business communities, right? And you have people that have been in business 40, 50, 60 years and know how things are supposed to be. That is going to be off-putting, right? Someone might be looking at you and seeing their granddaughter, right? And being like, oh, I didn't expect that, right? Who does she think she is, right? And I'm writing a book right now and the title is She Did What? Because it's my goal is to be so myself that if someone else is rattled by it, they're like, what the what? Not in the sense of being like provocative for being provocative sake, but like today when I was walking out of the country club in my high heels and looking at these like stodgy older men, as I was like really, really, really rattled, knowing that this was an email just sent to women. You know, I meant it. And I caught myself a little as I was getting into my mom car. I was like, you know, I can't believe I just said that. Like, these people will think I'm unprofessional. I was like, you know what? Fuck that shit. Like, fuck that. You know, like, I hope they show up in high heels and I hope they know what it's like to have that kind of, you know, foot excitement that is, you know, rough on your ankles. Screw you. Right. But like, I have to catch myself because other people are uncomfortable. And I then have a choice to make, which is, do I choose to be uncomfortable in response? Right. Because that's being codependent, right? Being codependent is simply being addicted to somebody else being okay. And if I say something that's true and genuine, not right, like I don't walk around in the world being an asshole on purpose. In general, I'm not. Like, I'm a pretty kind and thoughtful person in most circumstances, right? But I don't buy into the idea that I need you to be happy in order for me to be happy. And I think most women in a professional setting will go, in order for me to be okay, this other person has to like me. And in order to be liked, I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I can't do A, B, and C. And I think it's so challenging because we've made tremendous strides, right? As a human civilization, we've made tremendous strides, at least in the West, in terms of women, you know, going into leadership and all sorts of stuff. When my mom joined Gray Bar Electric, which is a big electrical company in the US, when she joined it back in the 70s, she and another new hire were sat down. He was a dude, she's a lady. And she was told, we're going to pay for him to go to college, but you're going to get married and get pregnant and leave. So we're not paying for you to go to college. Right. And she was there. She stayed there longer than he did. Right. And like, lo and behold, she put herself through college and got it when, as a single mom, with me being 8 and my sister being 6. Right. She's so strong. And then I was at a law school graduation, and a female friend said to me, she's a lawyer and she's in her 70s at this point. And she turned to me, and we're looking at this auditorium filled with more than half of the graduates of this law school, prestigious law school, were females. And she turns to me and she said, when I graduated law school in the 70s, there were only 10 women in my graduating class. So I don't want to sit in a place of privilege as an elder millennial and be like, it's all bad. It's not, right? There's been so much progress, right? But I think the next frontier of progress is not about lawsuits, and it's not about even Title IX here in the US or anything like that. I think the next wave is internal, of how much permission are we going to give ourselves to really just say what we think, right? And lead from a place of that. I have a client that I work with a number of Marines and firefighters because they're attracted to the masculine swagger of just kind of like, I'm actually, one of them gave me this. It's in my office, right?
Oh my goodness. Love it.
Like, you know, that's what my clients, you know, not all of them, but some of them, right? Like, that's, they know that they can be all of themselves with me because I'm going to be all of myself. And so I had this client resign with me for the whole year. And I asked him, I said, well, why are you resigning with me? Why have you decided to work with me for the year? And he's like, because when I work with you, I feel like my dick is 10 feet long. And I was like, that sounds uncomfortable, but I understand what you're trying to say. Oh my goodness. You know, like that's the like swagger and just like the give no fucks energy that I like wish for all women in leadership, is to just like, however bold you actually are, I just like, my wish for you is that you allow yourself to be her.
Yeah. I love this. It makes me think, there was something I read the other day, and I think this explains exactly what you just said in a slightly different way as well. It's like the person in the room that commands attention, but without being loud. They don't have to be loud and brash, because I think some people go, oh, the big dick energy means that you're the loud person yelling and no one else is getting a word in and you think you're amazing. It's not that. It's the presence of just knowing that you don't need anything from anyone in the room. You are just who you are because of who you are. And so it's like this complete detachment, like zero neediness. They're like, I am who I am and I need nothing. And that is what people are attracted to, because it's like the opposite of the desperation, right? So the desperation energy we repel from, because we're like, oh, that person's wanting something from me. And, we get it even in the email that you receive, and someone's like sending you a cold email. It's like, oh, what do they want? They want something from me. So we repel from that. This is like the dead opposite. And it's like, how can we embody that? Like what you said, the feeling, he likened it to his dick. We don't have dicks, but whatever. We're like, we just are who we are, and we can be who we are in the room. We don't need anything from anyone. So you can just have that presence. It's sort of, people look at it and we can never really place what it is, right? Because you'll go, I'm drawn to that person. I like being around them. They make me feel good because they're not needing anything from me. Like, we can have a conversation. They'll ask questions, they'll listen, they might talk, they might tell stories, but it's never from ego. It's never from seeking your approval. They're just telling you something that might be interesting. You're having a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is what we want to embody. Is that presence.
Mm-hmm. It girl. I have a client who is an image consultant, and when she walks in the room, exactly who the main character is, right? She had a different engagement and came to this ladies' luncheon last week, towards the tail end, right? And came in and enjoyed the company and the food and all the things, right? When she walked in, all eyes. Not because she's commanding the room, because she's walking. She's not a brash person in the slightest. She is the most elegant person I've ever met in my life, right? And she just commands that with her presence, right? She is the main character. There is no doubt, right? And for women who are maybe listening to this and being like, well, this means I've got to like scratch myself in public and burp and like just be myself, right? What I'm talking about is allowing yourself to step outside of what's been expected of you, right? And to say, well, what do I expect of me?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's a lot of fear in that for women when we say, well, I'm gonna start to think about myself first and foremost, and how do I really take care of myself, and how do I feel big enough to be this all of me sort of self. And what I want to say to you, if you're struggling with that, is that there's safety in that. What you were articulating is safety. You're saying, if you can be this, this presence that you really are, nobody needs anything, you don't need anything from everybody. What happens when people are around someone who is like that, who is embodying that, is they relax. Because they know you're not out to get you. So if you're a coach or you're a consultant that you work in kind of a one-on-one capacity with people, know that the more you are this version of yourself, this true version that has this like deeply embodied swagger, right? Whether that's quiet and confident like my colleague, or loud and swaggery like me, whatever that looks like for you, understand that the more that you're authentically yourself in that way, the safer your clients are going to feel to drop their guard, and the better you're going to be able to coach them, because you're no longer having to chip away at the armor, because they're going, well, am I being too much? Is this too much to share? Right? Like I have clients that work with me for executive coaching, and we end up veering into a lot of sex life stuff, right? Like there's all sorts of different bases that we cover, because nobody's trying to take care of Dr. Liz. They're safe, right? And they feel that because I'm not seeking anything from them.
Yes, exactly it. And you just think, now you start applying that to all of those other instances. Like, if you are someone you're thinking, I want to pitch for funding or whatever, people are attracted to and investing in the person that they're kind of perceiving as they're in command of themselves. They're confident, yeah. They're calm, they've got a presence. They're not, even though they might be pitching for funding, which, you know, like that is an ask, but they're doing it in such a way as like, whether you say yes or no, it's not going to affect me. I'd like you to say yes, but
right,
you know,
exactly.
they, you know, it's that presence. Like, how can you find that within you? And if you're listening, like, think about where you can like tap into that feeling where you are enough as you are now. I know that's kind of such an overused word, isn't it? But like, what would you say? What do you like when you're tapping into that inside you? Because you obviously do that all the time with your story. You're like, your clients open up because you don't need anything from them. So what's that feeling that you're tapping into? How would you describe it?
Safety. I think this kind of like, I'm enough, you're enough, whatever. Like I have a little carving that my husband got me that says you are enough. So like, I don't want to like put down this language, but what we're trying to articulate is that you're safe just as you are.
Yeah.
Right. In this moment, you don't need anything more. You don't need anything less, because everything you've got right now, you're safe and you're fine. Right. When I was going, I got divorced, like 8 years ago now. And it was such a scary ass time in my life. Like it was so bad. And I would wake up every morning and I would say, there's food in my fridge. There's a roof on my, like a roof over my head, and I am okay. And like, I could not get out of bed until I had reminded myself of those very basic things. Right. And like from that space, I was like, okay, like we can move from here. I was writing a dissertation. I had a 3.5-year-old, and I was the executive director of an organization of 5,000 people. Right. And so I had all of this stuff in my life happening, and I didn't feel up to the task. Right. But once I reminded myself I was safe, things got easier. Right. And I still do that. I place my hand on my heart, skin to skin, and I will just breathe deeply for a couple of beats before I go like transition into the next whatever I'm about to do.
I love that. I'm safe and you're here. Everything's fine and you can handle it, right? Because here you are. You're handling it. Wash, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like I can't even imagine what it would have been like. All of those things.
I instigated it. I started it. So like I don't want to be a victim here. Like I was the one that initiated it, but it was still very scary.
I mean, never insinuating that you're a victim at all, but it's just a terrible thing to go through, isn't it? Like there's such a, you know, especially when you've got a child and there's just such a change, and then you're showing up every day running a company.
It was
like
awful.
There's a lot, like whether or not you chose it, it doesn't mean it's any less hard to go through. And likewise, I mean, I firmly believe that we all make our own choices, whether it's like choosing to do nothing or choosing to do something. Like you're still making a choice. And, you know, that was the same with me with, you know, the experiences that I had. I'm like, I ended up choosing. It was my choice to leave when I did, my choice to do what I wanted to do, and my choice to remain there when I remained. You're always in control of it. And so that's fine. That's just your choice and you get on with it and it's all good. But I love this. So Liz, we've had such a great conversation about this today. I feel like there's so many stones that we've left unturned in this conversation. Maybe we'll come back and do a part 2. But if people wanted to kind of listen to you more and talk about your things, you mentioned you have a podcast as well. Is that a good place for people to tune in and hear more from you? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So the best way to find me and to find all the podcasts I've been featured on is just at my website, which is drlizdubois.com, drlizdubois.com. And there's all the podcasts that I've been on. And then I've had 2 different podcasts. The one that speaks most directly to what we've been talking about is called Small No More. And that was a limited series podcast that I did in 2020. So that's about socialized norms and leadership and women and all
Amazing.
of that. My current podcast is called Psyched Pod. It's about psychology and mental health. and the intersection of mental health and leadership. So I have a co-host, Dr. T. Watts, who is a female Marine and just spectacular, but both of us have had really significant mental health challenges, and we came together and started a podcast so we could talk about it.
Love it. Oh, wow. We'll make sure all of those are linked up in the show notes. And obviously you can go through and find Liz from there and explore all of the great things that she has to offer. So thanks so much for your time here today, Liz. It's been really great. I love connecting with other women, having these conversations that need to be had. And I hope that we've opened up some new perspectives, and that you're, people who are listening now are leaving with some, some ideas and maybe a bit of homework to go and do. Like, go and find your woman.
I love assigning homework. Yes, go find your lionesses, man. Like you need them, and they need you, right? We got to carry the torch.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.